Hey guys, it's me here, Britannia, back with another video. I want to talk about problem questions with you guys today. So I just want to give you guys a few tips on how you can tackle problem questions, just like some tips and tricks on efficient ways to answer problem questions, the format, and just, any other advice that would help you along if you're really starting to struggle with these new questions during law school. If you're not sure what a problem question is and if this video pertains to you, I'll just run by real quick what is a problem question. So what a problem question is just a question that they will usually give you at some point during your law career. From this jump for me, I've already been dealing with problem questions from year one, but I know for other people it's a bit different depending on how assessments work for you. You'll be given a scenario where the issues or the facts of that scenario are really related to one particular area of the law. So you'll have maybe tort. A tort problem question will be different from a criminal problem question, which will be different from a problem question in contract, and so on. So in one area of law, you'll get a problem question, and you'll get certain issues to address based on that area of the law. When you're addressing a problem question, usually you're expected to give like an analysis. Either the analysis is typically based on advice that you're supposed to give to one particular client or maybe a group of clients, or it simply asks you to give an analysis and then conclude with which is likely to occur in a court judgment. So I had said earlier for me that I've been dealing with problem questions when I first started law school back in 2019. Now, a law problem question is really different that I found from any other questions that would be deemed a problem questions in my other school experience. Like back in high school or primary or even back in college, my A-level equivalent before I got here, when I was giving a problem question, it's usually what I guess more like a short answer question. So you're just basically doing things like maybe listing or describing or just like a short explanation on something, versus a problem question where it's really giving you a scenario you're supposed to attack in really set out, organized way. I've never encountered anything like that in any kind of schooling arena or just like any kind of arena other than law school so far. I've heard from a lot of people, the problem question of law school is quite unique. It's a quite unique thing. You really would only probably see it in law school, I guess. So when I first was given the matter of a problem question, I was just fuddled because I've never seen it before. And then our lecturers really wouldn't tell us how we're supposed to answer it. I don't know why. I don't know what it was with my uni, but they just were kind of I would say for me personally, I found the answers or the explanations vague on how to tackle a problem question. They will almost always tell you to just use IRAC, and this is IRAC. So IRAC stands for issue, rule, apply, and conclusion. That is the IRAC formula. So it simply means that you start off with identifying the issue in a problem question, and then you apply the rule, which relate the rule of law, which relates to that issue, and then you apply the key facts or anything about that rule, the principles, conditions, key facts, the case related to that rule, etc., into your answer. And then finally you will conclude, like I said before, either by saying, oh well, if you're advising someone, you're like, well, I probably think or it's likely that this will happen or this will not happen for whoever the person is. Or you could say, again, it is highly likely, highly unlikely, it is improbable, it's probable that this will occur if this matter goes to court. That's how we usually conclude. But I mean, IRAC is a helpful formula, but it doesn't really let you know all the things you're expected to do when it comes to answering a problem question. IRAC, I feel is just the bare minimum. IRAC will get you, if you just straight apply an IRAC, that'll probably get you a 40, because that's what happened to me, honestly. So the main way work, or just assessments in general, operates here at the University of Sheffield, and for me here as a first year and a second year. What we would do is we would have a seminar every 2 weeks for any particular module, and then every 2 weeks we're giving a seminar sheet to prepare, and then before that 2-week period we're giving a seminar sheet to prepare answers for questions that they are given to us based on that topic for that seminar. So So if the topic for that seminar, let's say it's tort, and the topic is negligence. So we're going to give a series of questions based on negligence, as well as maybe a problem question, one or two, or maybe just one. Never know. It depends on the lecturer or the module convener or whoever is in charge of doing that kind of work. And as well as maybe even an essay question. We're not expected to actually write an essay, but just like a little outline, a bullet point of how we would argue this. So our main practice when it comes to problem questions is just to like do little jottings based on the answer that we would have for that problem question. In this seminar, there's about like 12 students at a time, maybe more, depending on the size of, I guess, the class size for that module, or just like the class size in general for law. So we don't have a lecturer just fully going out and looking like sentence to sentence at each and every individual student's work done for a problem question. We're not writing out a full answer for that problem question. We're just doing like just a quick jotting about how we would tackle that, basically to the best of our ability in the best IRAC film that we can do in order just to like do some shorthand prep work for a seminar. Now, so other than that, we have a non-assessed assessment, meaning that we're getting some kind of assessment that is non-graded. It doesn't reflect into our overall grade whatsoever. It's mainly for practice, as well as at the end of the semester, we get a fully assessed assessment piece that's 100% a grade usually. So the main feedback or critique that I really gotten in regards to me doing a problem question or me trying to answer a problem question for the very first time was like in the middle of semester when I finally was able to give in my non-assessed piece for that module or for any module. Now, my first time preparing a non-assessed piece for a problem question was, I believe, in obligations. So in obligations for me, that means that was it was a mix of contract and tort law. So obligations for me was a mix of contract and tort law. And when I got back my sheet, I literally just got a 40. And I was just like, why do I have a 40? What? Like 40 is literally just a pass. I was like, I am not a pass student. Why am I getting a 40? And basically this is because just applying the IRAC formula does not guarantee you a good grade. Just because your answer is, right, or what the instructor or lecturer would have put down, like the ending answer, does not mean you'll get full points, because you'll get points for citing cases, how many cases you said, you get points for issues, you get points for applying judgments, any extra work, you have fewer points for, you get additional points for every little thing you do. But if you're just doing the bare minimum, of course you'll get the bare minimum of a grade. And I didn't particularly understand that. I didn't particularly understand why me applying IRAC was the bare minimum when that was what I was told to do. And that they wouldn't give us not any other additional information, but they wouldn't give us like model answers. I specifically asked one of my seminar teachers, can I get a model answer so I understand what exactly is the answer supposed to look like? I understand we're supposed to use IRAC, but we've never used it before, so can I see a model answer? And they wouldn't give us any. And as well as like, just when I just asked, okay, so other than IRAC, what are the formatting rules or procedures for a problem question? And just like, oh, we don't really tell you how to format or this or that. And I was like, okay? So how am I supposed to know? But what a lot of students did, and what I probably should have done instead of just like answering a question and see how it goes. I mean, because it was non-graded, I didn't particularly care about how, about how great the answer was. I mostly just answered the non-assessed to really test out what they really want from me and what they did not want from me when it comes to applying IRAC. So I did kind of like got my answers. Like, okay, so they really do want more than just IRAC. So what a lot of other students did that I didn't do was just like simply Google problem questions to see how the formatting works. And I did Google a couple, and then there was more. I noticed that there was way more than IRAC going on. Like you had a lot of key definitions for certain contract words. Like if the main question is about offering as the issue, if the main issue in that particular problem scenario is about offer, and you will know once you start to like really get practice into it what the main issue of a question is asking you to address. You'll know if it's offer, you know if it's acceptance, You know if it's murder or manslaughter. You'll know when you get your practice in. As soon as you read it, okay, this is probably what's going on here. So for contract, you'd probably have to define certain keywords like offer. If it's an offer-based issue problem question, you probably have to define maybe acceptance or any other thing that would become relevant into that problem question. Again, that's not really something that's said in IRAC, so that's really more than you just applying IRAC into a problem question. So honestly, for me, I do believe when you're first starting out answering problem questions, the best way to get to know how to do it is to look at model answers. Like I said before, like some lecturers will just refuse to give you model answers. I did actually have one lecturer or seminar tutor down the road, I believe in like spring semester, so just like at the start of this year, who did give me a model answer for one of her questions that we had in a seminar. I was like, so why did you give me a model answer but the other lecturer refused? I was just like, this is so confusing. But it doesn't hurt to ask. If they say no, fine. You have resources. Go online. I like to use Law Teacher, as well as a lot of other students really like to use Law Teacher. Now, it's not an accredited legal site, of course. I'm not even sure who is behind that site, but I have found like a lot of useful information on that site. And you have other sites like Study Notes or stuff like that, I guess, where you could find some model answers based off of problem questions. But I usually only and typically like to use Law Teacher. I just find the information to be really helpful on there. I find that the model answers that they usually have on there are quite helpful, and I think a lot of them are actually from real students. Other than that, there are a lot of like law revision books that you could find on Amazon, or even from older students who are done with law or done with that particular module, because once you get into like second or third year, you start to really pick your module. So if you don't like criminal law, you have a criminal law book that you're not going to use anymore. So I would invest in a few law revision books just to help you get better grades. They'll give you guidelines, and they also have like a lot of practice problem questions and model answers that you can look at, especially if you're really stuck on how am I supposed to format or write this, versus you not really understanding what issues or answer it is that you're trying to get to. They're really good. They're also really good with just helping you out with the rule of law and just what it is that a certain law or just what it is a certain rule is saying, because sometimes it is hard to understand what a rule means. Sometimes it will give you even good cases to cite for particular issues or particular rule of laws, or even a particular judgment that a teacher would really appreciate you including into a problem question. So do give Law Revision or Law Express books a chance. Get a few, they're very helpful. Like, I didn't find out about them until like the end of the first semester, and I realized a lot of people were using them, and I was just like, how did I not know? Obviously, I wasn't doing my research enough. I wasn't watching enough YouTube videos. I should have. But it was all great in the end anyway. So by the end of my first semester, I did get a first anyhow in a mainly problem question assessment. So just to also let you know, honestly, generally most problem questions do follow like a similar formatting, but you will find, depending on the module, again, depending on the area of law, you will see certain things just more dependent in certain modules. For example, definitely in tort, contract, and criminal, they are way more case heavy. So whenever you're answering a problem question, you'll probably see yourself citing many cases. You'll also probably see yourself defining a lot of keywords in the beginning, whether it be manslaughter, murder, offer, acceptance, negligence. Usually in those kind of 3 modules, you'll see that you have to define a lot of those keywords before you move on to answering the question, just so you understand, or the reader understands, this is why that rule applies, because this offer is not matching up the legal definition of what an offer is, or what manslaughter is, or etc. Versus stuff like land law, which is very statute heavy. So it's not a lot of case citing in those problem questions. It's a lot of understanding certain sections of a certain legislation and applying it there. So you'll have to understand like the literal differences when it comes to formats, or just like procedures or just like stuff like that when it comes to problem questions in different modules or different areas of the law. I would try practicing a few problem questions, and then if you have a lecturer or a seminar tutor or even a friend that you can go to let you know, okay, can you critique this for me like really quick? Just let me know just like some key points here that you see, just like really quick. Let me know where I'm going right, where I'm going wrong here. Is it my is it here in the issues department? Is it the rules? Is it the application? Is it my conclusion? Let me know real quick what is my issue here with problem questions that I'm just not getting. That is something that I think will really help, because like I said, that's what I really did with my non-assessed. Even though I hate the idea of 100% final grades or graded work, I do like the idea of having a non-assessed practice to just like put it out there with no kind of like consequences, no long-term consequences in my actions. And I think that really helps you just like going maybe like a really different direction than you usually would if you know something is graded, or just trying something out just to see what's gonna happen, or what is the grade I'm gonna get back. Sometimes it's just good to have like a confirmation of things, and that's why I really love non-assessed for that, as well as that they're optional to do sometimes when you just like are too busy to do. So do practice questions and have someone critique you on it, and that will be your best way to learn how to really answer a problem question. Another piece of advice when it comes to problem questions that really still relates to the whole formatting issue is when it comes to introductions and conclusions. Now, problem questions are not an essay, so you're not expected to have a 300 word long introduction or 150 word long conclusion. That's not how they work at all. Even if you're given like a 1200 word count for a problem question, you really should limit the amount of word spacing or usage that you're doing with your introduction or your conclusion. Depending on what the problem question is asking you to do, like if it says, advise Sam, keep it short and sweet in the first sentence, which just doesn't count towards anything. You're not getting any kind of grading just for starting off the problem question with like with any kind of introductory words that do not add to the relevant law or anything at hand or to the issue. It doesn't do anything for you, really. So just keep it short and keep it sweet. It's usually always really good to just jump into it. So just start off the introductory sentence with something like, firstly, the issue here is, and just like try to jump into it as best as you can without like messing up the organizational flow. And when you're ending it, usually you just like conclude with something with like, due to the fact in this case, it's highly likely that the courts will find in favor of party A or party B. Stuff like that. Keep it short, keep it sweet, move it on. So usually in problem questions, as you go along, as the more practice you get and the more advanced you're expected to be by your tutors and your lecturers, they will involve many more parties into a problem question. Now, I believe for my assessed final piece for criminal law, my problem question I think involves like 5 different people. Now, sometimes this can confuse students about how am I supposed to answer the question when you have all of these people wrapped up to it and you're supposed to like advise everybody or maybe even advise one person in the scenario as it relates to everyone else in the scenario. So if Tom, Susan, Kelly, Frank, and John are all in one scenario question, but you're supposed to advise Tom based on the 4 other people's actions, usually what I would do is I would just like do like bullet points, any kind of style I guess you prefer. Usually I like to use Roman numerals, I, you know how it goes. So I would bullet point each individual, and usually I'll do this in the order which they appear in the problem question. So if Kelly's scenario as it relates to Tom arrives first in the problem question, I will deal with her first, and I will keep going down as the problem question progresses. And that's just like an easy way to organize your problem question answer in like just like an efficient and pleasing manner to the grader or the marker. Now, another area of problem questions that really tend to just confuse or just intimidate law students is when one problem question has numerous different issues in it to deal with. So again, for example, if it's a contract question, that could mean that it's dealing with the issue in offer, as well as the issue in acceptance, as well as maybe an issue in variation, as well as maybe an issue in promissory estoppel. Or if it's criminal law, that could mean that one problem question deals with manslaughter, theft, murder, battery, assault, all in one problem question. So again, similar to when you have a problem question with numerous parties in it, I'll just go through the question as those issues occur. So if it's a criminal question, I will deal with murder, manslaughter, all those different issues as they occur in the problem question and then address them accordingly. If it's one party and you want to address multiple issues, again, you could use bullet points. If it's numerous parties and you have numerous issues, then you can start with party A, issue B, issue C, party B, issue A, issue B, issue C. I hope that was very clear. I hope that was very clear. But I'm just saying, if you have, let's say, two parties in one problem question, you have Sam and you have Tracy. So there are different issues dealing with both Sam and Tracy. So let's say, again, it's a criminal thing. So Sam may have committed both murder, manslaughter, both, I said. So Sam may have committed both murder and or manslaughter. So we start with Sam. If murder appears first in the problem question as it relates to Sam, we'll start off with Sam, murder, as one paragraph. And then in the next paragraph, we follow up with the other offense. Similar again. So then we go to the next bullet point. The next bullet point is that party who is Tracy. And we start off with her offense. Tracy, in the first paragraph, I mentioned the first issue, use the IRAC formula, finish off that paragraph with IRAC. So issue, rule, apply, conclude. Next paragraph, next offense or like issue that we're going to deal with. Boom, clean and simple, very organized way to deal with those kind of questions and those kind of multi issues and parties. So all of that was really just regarding to maybe just general advice when it comes to the formatting of problem questions and the way you answer them. Now I think I'm going to move on to more things that are just like more tip-wise versus general formatting. One great tip when it comes to answering problem questions is make sure you don't repeat the facts of the case in the answer as answers. So try to avoid as much as possible just repeating what's already been said in the question. If it says, for example, Sam murdered B here at this time, blah, blah, blah. Try as best as possible to answer that scenario without just regurgitating all of that information. Because what they do not want you to be when you're answering these questions is descriptionary. They want you to be informational as possible. We don't want descriptions of the act that was already described in the question in your answer. Try your best to limit any words that seems very descriptionary or very repeating whilst trying to analyze and but answer the question properly. Another tip as well that a lecturer gave me is try not to repeat yourself. So that would mean, for example, if you have a problem question, again, I'm going to use contract for an example. If you have a problem question in contract where the main issue, where you have two main issues and they're both related to offer, maybe don't redefine offer again when you're addressing the second offer type issue. So if that is confusing, how can you have two issues that still relate to offer? Here's an example. So you can have offers that occur maybe in a commercial setting with two commercial parties or in a familial setting. So if you have a problem question that has a scenario where it's in a commercial setting and then you have a scenario when it's in a familial setting, and both of those issues are regarding was there really an offer that would be effective in law, meaning does it have intent to be legal, was it clear, etc., etc., etc. So you can have a problem question like that where it's offer in general, but the two different issues related to offer. So the lecturer probably is not going to expect you to define offer more than once. So don't repeat unnecessary information into your answer because it will not give you additional points by repeating similar facts over and over again. So if you had to say something, if you just like maybe want to tie it in back into your answer later down, you could just be like, as said previously or something like that, keep it as short as possible and just get into the main issue. There may be a few rules of law that you may have to apply again if one issue is similar to another in one problem question, but don't worry about it. Just make sure you're not repeating a lot of descriptionary information or things that just wouldn't be necessary at all. And again, like I said, as you go on with problem questions, you will know which things will have to be repeated and which things don't. It's all about practice when it comes to law, to be honest. The more you do it, the more you'll get used to it, the more you really know what is yes and what is no. Another good tip one of my lecturers again gave me is that if you have a case which mirrors the facts of a problem question exactly, like when you read the problem question, it's like, oh, okay, they want you to say this case. One of my lecturers said, honestly, it may just be good to use that case to jump right into your answer. So you could start off your introduction in a different way by saying, as the issues in this scenario mirror the case of blank v blank, and then solve and analyze and say why this is how it's going to end up in court, or how it will be judged, or how the rule law will work, because this is how it worked in this other case. I think this may be just like my last tip for this video, just because I think this is getting a bit long, but just like the last couple of tips. Make sure you don't just cite one case per rule. It's always good to cite at least 2 to 3 cases, maybe 4 if you have that many for a rule. Always make sure you double check your problem question. If you can, check with your friends. You know, like I said, it's always good to get help or get a second brain or a second opinion on things. Send your friends your answers, see what they have. Don't ever let someone's different answer as well maybe persuade you from an answer you think in your heart is really right. It's all about the argument at the end of the day. How well did you argue these facts? How much sense does it make that you have this answer? And how much sense did it make that you got to this interpretation based on the rule and based on other judges' opinions and stuff like that, and how the treatments of different cases, period. Yeah, always make sure you cite a varying amount of cases. That's always a good sign. It shows that you did a lot of research, and therefore that's why you have a lot of references. Also, make sure you read over for simple things like spelling, because spelling and grammar can dock you simple 1 or 2 points that can get you from a 2-1 to a first. I should know, because I've gotten like 268s in different modules, and I'm just like, oh my god. A couple of more points, wherever those points got lost, could have been my difference from a 2-1 to a first. I've only gotten 1 first, but every other grade I've gotten is a 2-1, usually a high 2-1. So, you know, the more you can do to change that, the little things you can do to read over your work to make sure you get the highest grade possible, you should do that. Honestly, when it comes to law, every single mark does count. Try your best not to run over your word limit. Word limits are there for a reason. When lecturers give you a word limit, they really do mean it. Always watch your word limit as well when it comes to your answer word limit. The closer you get to the word limit is usually the best you are to whatever model answer that the lecturer has in mind. So if you're far below it, like if you have only 700 words out of 1200, go back and see what needs to be done, because there is something that needs to be done there because you're not close enough. If you are like maybe 1000 to 1200, that's fine. But you could also make sure to check what you can add to it. There's also some additional information that's outside of your PowerPoints, that's outside of your seminar sheet, that's outside of the cases that they give you to go read in your free time. There's always something outside of the material that your lecturer has provided you that you could look up, that you really should if you really want to get yourself up there into that first class category, that you can add into your question or into your question answer rather. Most importantly at all, if you are confused, go to your lecturer about it. They probably cannot answer anything directly related to the question that they give you, especially if it's something that is assessed, but they may be able to clear up certain things when it comes to a particular rule in general. They're not going to give you anything too specific when it comes to your homework or your assessments, but they will try to help you as best you can. If you are generally confused about something, to email them, to chat with them. I know things being online makes it difficult, but I'm pretty sure they still have some kind of hours allocated to help you. If you're confused, if the way the question itself is structured is confusing, because sometimes with problem questions, sometimes the words they use for that scenario to have you interpret something does not convey what they meant. So go back to your teacher, make sure you understand what the problem question is saying. You can also do outlines for problem questions as well. That's really helpful for people to just like underline certain sentences in the question and be like, okay, that is that issue, underline in the scenario, that's obviously that issue, and do just like a quick few cases, boop, boop, boop. Those are that cases that come in mind when it comes to that issue. this is that case that comes to mind when I read this scenario. You could do that as well. Some people find that very helpful. I'm not much of an outlining kind of person. I just like to read and go, and that kind of helps me. Maybe that's why I'm stuck in a 2-1 category. But you know, everyone's not perfect. I feel like certain things just work for certain people, and we'll see. So I hope this video was helpful. Like I said before, when I first started uni, I found problem questions very difficult. I really didn't get it. But I feel like after I got to practice 1 or 2 of them, and after I just like brushed away that 40, okay, that 40 was just like me attempting to see something. I saw what I saw, and now I know what I have to do. So after that, I was fine. I got like a 72 in one problem question assessment answer. I got 68 in I think, what did I get? Jeez, I can't remember my grades anymore. Yeah, so I've gotten a lot of 2-1s, 1 first. Just to be transparent with you, I'm of course not a genius. I don't go to Oxford. This is just like my general tips that have helped me along the way and what I think about problem questions. So that's like just as a regular average student. You can also listen to, I guess, the students who have a YouTube page who are Oxford level, who are first class level students consistently. And you never know, when you shoot for the moon, sometimes you hit the stars, sometimes you hit the surface of the earth, who knows. So if that will help you do that, I'm not limiting you to listening to me. I'm just putting the information and the content out there for whoever wants it from a person like me. So I hope this video was very helpful. Thank you guys for watching another one of my videos, and I hope you watch more. Please let me know other content you'll like to see from me, or any other questions that you have about uni or law school, or just anything else going on in my life that you want to know